Pete Mitchell. I'm one half of the band No More Kings.
Well, my background with No More Kings is I first heard you guys on Pandora. I don't even remember what radio station or which station it was, but I heard your Zombie Me song. And
Cool.
I was like, oh, I love this song. Plus it's zombies, and they were and still are awesome at the time. And so I did what like everybody does, and I YouTubed you. And I saw the fan-made video with that kid.
Oh, Troy?
Troy, yeah. And which was great.
Yeah, it's really funny where he's like eating his brother's head.
Yeah, it was an adorable video. And then I started like YouTubing more of you, and I just fell in love with your music. So then I bought your first CD, and you know, I like all your references to the 80s, so I think that's why I loved it so much. I mean, you know, Karate Kid, Knight Rider, all that stuff. And when I saw your official Sweep the Leg video with Ralph Macchio and
Billy Zabka.
Yeah, I was just like, that is so cool. Like, that's just awesome. And so, you know, I was listening to you all the time. And at the time, I was working for a company working with special needs kids. And I worked with one kid who was he was kind of like in his shell, wouldn't really talk to me or anything. And then one time we were driving to, I was like taking him to horseback riding or something, and I put on your, you know, No More Kings CD, and like that just was like the beginning of him to opening up.
Oh, wow.
It was great, yeah, because he started like kind of bouncing around to all your songs and then like singing along, and he loved Girl in the Sea, so it was, and with that, like that just kind of made me fall in love with No More Kings even more. And now I use it like all the time with my students.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's my history with No More Kings.
That's interesting because usually people's first experience or first introduction to us is the Sweep the Leg video. So that's fun that you found that, like, you know, second or third down the list.
Yeah, and ever since then I've just been hooked. They just have like catchy, fun songs that I love.
Thanks, man.
Like, how'd you guys start? Like, did you always want to be a musician growing up?
Weirdly, I always sang, and I was always into music, but I never really thought about the possibility of doing that for a living. You know, I studied art in school. I got a degree in painting, and I always thought that's how I was going to make my living with art, and music would always be something I did on the side. It turns out that that's still true. I haven't really made any money out of No More Kings, but I've certainly gotten way more attention and way more success with music than I have with art. So it's weird to me that the table sort of turned. I'm still trying. I guess I can with No More Kings. I can sort of combine them. Like I'm able to do all the artwork for No More Kings. You know.
Yeah.
So in some way, it's not that much of a, you know, like those things aren't fighting each other. But yeah, so I was always into it. I never thought I could do it as a living. I met Neil in high school, and I just started writing really silly songs together. And then we started going, hey, people are digging these things. Let's actually like spend some time and rehearse and do this. And we started doing shows together and really like writing stuff. And then we added a drummer who played percussion at the time. So we were a three-piece, and we were like, well, we can't, we have to have a name now. So we picked No More Kings because we were both really into that Schoolhouse Rock series from the 80s.
I remember that.
The song about the, pilgrims coming over on the Mayflower was called No More Kings. So we always kind of got a kick out of that one. So that was that. That was probably around, I want to say like 1990, 1991, somewhere around there, when we officially formed No More Kings. Mm-hmm. And then we went dark. We both moved to Los Angeles as part of a different project and stopped doing No More Kings altogether. And a couple years after that, Neil's brother, Adam, who was a bass player in No More Kings back in the day, we had a couple of different bass players, but he was one of them. He ended up starting a record label, and we were like one of the first bands that he wanted to sign, because he was always kind of sad that we never had a chance to properly record our stuff, and so none of us had any illusions about going on and being famous rock stars or anything. We just really wanted a chance to professionally record an album's worth of songs.
Yeah.
And so we did, and then we were able to do a second album. The biggest surprise for me was the Sweep the Leg thing. like with that, the way that all came together, and sort of how viral that went, and I think that surprised all of us.
I know tons of people who are like, when I bring up No More Kings, they're like, oh yeah, they do the Sweep the Leg. I'm like,
It's
oh
so
yeah.
weird to me. But it's weird to me that anybody knows who the hell I am that I didn't have to tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's really weird to me. I'm still kind of, every once in a while I'll run into somebody it's very, very infrequently, but every once in a while it'll happen where somebody will recognize me from that video, like a friend showed them, or got passed, or they saw it on some sort of best of website or something.
Yeah.
Somehow people, you know what I mean? And I think it has very little to do with us, and has more to do with the strength of the Karate Kid, I think. Which is still pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I still love Karate Kid.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like, what struggles did you face starting and versus like now and all that?
And we're still facing struggles.
Yeah.
I'd say early on, that's a really good question. I guess the struggle's always going to be getting people to care. Getting people to come to your show, getting people to listen, getting people to make the decision to buy an album. From the very beginning, that was difficult, and even now it is. I feel like it's worse now in the sense that people assume music should be free, or they assume entertainment should be free, and they forget that the people that are making movies and music for them, it costs them money to do that stuff, and it costs them time. But that was less of an issue when I was younger. I mean, people still didn't have money to buy music, but we weren't able to file share just yet, back in the early 90s. So, and also something about being like a big fish in a small pond in Rhode Island, we were able to get people to come out. There wasn't a lot of competition for the kind of music we were making.
Yeah.
Now, that's harder. The signal to noise ratio was different, and being a pop rock band in the 2000s, 2010, 2000, it's a pretty
tough market.
It's a tough market, man. Music's hard for everybody. I don't want to make it sound like pop rock has it bad, but that's the biggest slice of the pie is pop rock. So in terms of, it would have made more sense for us to do like, I don't know, fiddle or something a little more niche.
Yeah.
But we picked like the deepest ocean to be part of.
And what keeps you motivated?
Man, everything keeps you motivated. I'm it's weird. I get inspired by everything. I'm one of those guys that I love movies. I love going to the movies. I love stories. I'm on Tumblr. Tumblr is I know a lot of people that are Facebook freaks, Facebookaholics. I don't really spend a lot of time on Facebook, but I spend all my time on Tumblr because it's basically an ongoing feed of art and animation and just like video clips, and it's just this like constant stream of inspiring stuff that I see. So I'm constantly inspired by things. I could stop getting new information, like I could stop right now and still have enough to write about for 3 more lifetimes. But the fact is, every day I get more stuff that comes on my radar.
Yeah.
New movies or new music or new artwork or new animation, and everything that I see makes me want to make something.
I think what, at least for me, like you embody what I believe a lot of people try to strive for, which is just doing what you love and just creating a life out of it. You're a musician, you're an artist, technically a game designer with
sure.
Zombies AS or Zombie ASC, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm actually glad you mentioned that. That was the first game that I sort of put money into and hired a developer to make with me. And I was actually thinking about that the other day, how disappointing the impact that game had. Disappointing the sales were on that. And I thought, crap, I'm never going to make that money back. And I'm okay with that. That was that was something I bought myself. It was a gift I bought myself. But
yeah, it's.
But I'm glad that that some people actually have heard of it.
Yeah, I love it. I play it time to time whenever I have a chance. But it's one of those fun, just kind of pick up and play kind of games.
It's not a great game, but it's simple and it's a fun little time waster. I had high hopes for where to take it, but until it makes something, it's hard to convince the developer to spend more time and money on updating it.
Yeah,
which is the same, because that's the only way it's going to get new people is if you update it. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail it and talk about that.
That's fine. As you said, in high school you were like a musician, but did you ever have to slum it at another job for a while to kind of make ends meet?
Absolutely. No, like I said, There was a very small period in college for me when Neil and I were making decent money for that age, playing music. And we were doing college events, both at my school and at a couple other schools. We weren't selling music yet, so we were only getting paid for performances. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And that was okay for I didn't have very many expenses, so it was great. But before that and after that, and even kind of during that time, I worked at Burger King. I remember working at Kinko's.
Oh, yeah.
Just being like being in the middle of. Have you been to? Well, I think they're probably different now, but in the early days of Kinko's, there were just all these huge copy machines. And we called it the pit. And like the one guy who was me, had to be in the middle of all these ridiculous high speed copy machines, and they would jam constantly. You had to fix the jam and get it back on schedule because people were expecting. I don't know, it was weird. I remember my first day, this guy brought in a huge oversized architectural renderings on Bell and whatever. And I sent it through the oversized scanner, and it caught back on itself, and so it ended up printing itself on itself.
Oh,
I ruined the guy's original. That was my first day, so I was like, I am not cut out for this. Give me a guitar.
Yeah. Your inspirations for your songs come now. Do you and Neil both write more? Like, who does one write more of the songs than the other?
Well, this changes, but our basic process is Neil will write the music, the instrumentation, and usually I'll write the lyrics and my melody, and then we'll get together, and obviously we'll each have some notes. I don't usually ever have notes about what Neil's playing, because first of all, I'm out of my league with that stuff. I don't have the kind of theory background that he has. I don't have, and also I'm always just blown away by what he comes up with. But every once in a while, he'll push me. It's weird. It's like I'll always react sort of like when he doesn't like something straight away. But later, when he forces me to kind of tighten up lyrics or fix an idea or get a theme better, the song always ends up being better afterwards for it. So I'm trying to fight that initial reaction, realizing what, he's right. This is going to be better. But anyways, just back to your point. That's usually how it's split. He does the music. Like for example, the whole Boombox album.
Yeah.
We wrote the entire album. He had a guitar, a loop pedal. I had a microphone. I beatboxed the beat into the loop pedal. That kept looping, and then he jammed on a rhythm, and we looped that. And then I just kind of used nonsense lyrics to come up with a melody. And once we got something we liked, I threw it into GarageBand and started working on the lyrics. He brought it into Pro Tools, worked up a demo. We got back together, and so that's how every song went for that. The first album was a little different because half of those songs were songs we've been playing since high school and college, and then half of the songs we had to write new stuff for the album.
Yeah.
So that process was a little different.
Yeah, I like both albums. I have both of them. I like both. They're similar, but there's also a difference. Like they're a little different.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I really feel like both of those things have to be true for a band to progress. You have to have something that's similar about your new stuff so that it feels like you. I didn't want to take such a. I've been a fan of bands that their second album is so different that you're like, whoa, it's like a different band. But I would never want a new album to be a repeat of a previous album. I feel like you should try to be doing something new and pushing it somehow.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think that it's not a surprise. If you listen to the second album, you go, oh yeah, I hear where some of the first album influences are on here. But I also hear this is a completely new direction.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd class. It's a little more rocky than poppy.
I think it's funkier. I think we were using Sly and the Family Stone, Bill Withers, Aretha Franklin. We were using a lot of 70s funk. We were listening to a lot of that stuff before we made the second album, and so I think some of that got in there. There's a lot more space. There's a lot more really cool drum grooves, drum and bass grooves.
Yeah.
Not drum and bass in the techno sense, but drum and bass guitar.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And then the first album was a lot more, in my opinion, a lot more straight, super produced pop.
Yeah.
So that's what you mean. This was a little more rock in the sense that it's a little more heavy energy, a little more raw, I think.
Yeah, and
new stuff even more, so.
Yeah, your singles are even more different. I mean, They're Coming to Get You, Barbara is along the same lines. So what, musical, who'd you listen to growing up that you really influenced your passion for music?
growing up, I was a huge Michael Jackson fan. I remember getting into the Beastie Boys. I loved their energy. I was a huge Billy Joel fan. Just the songwriting was incredible. I liked the band Boston for their harmonies.
Oh, I love Boston.
They're amazing. I always loved the Beatles for just their diversity. I mean, speaking about albums that don't sound anything alike, that's their discography is all over the place. But to me, what's that?
It's the perfect example.
Yeah. I can't think of another band that's that varied, honestly. So yeah, so those are the people that I just was super charged by. And then when, like I said, when we were writing stuff, I think probably the easiest. Probably there's a lot of Michael Jackson and a lot of Beastie Boys in terms of my kind of rhythmic singing style, and then the sort of silly kind of energy that the Beastie Boys have. So I would think those two combined make our first album.
Yeah, I can see that. We also have a lot of cool covers on YouTube. A lot of good songs.
Yeah, thanks, man. I've always loved. It's weird. I'm a huge fan of taking a cover and really going nuts with it and making it unique and fun and really making it having a signature. And I'm less interested in covers that sound exactly like the original. While that's technically impressive, that's not something I'm interested in doing,
Yep.
Which is weird for me, because when I grew up, I was in a lot of cover bands, since I was 16. And for some reason, back then, I was always an imitator. So, like, if we did a Rush song, I tried to sing like Eddie Lee. And I remember the band was like, can you not do that?
Yeah.
I don't know how to sing like me. I didn't know what my own voice was yet. But now that I figured that out, I think it's a lot more fun to, change the tempo of a song or change the vibe all around, or if it's a piano song, do it with cello. And, I don't know, like, I'm interested in really reinventing a cover and making it something special.
Yeah, that's what, I see a lot of your videos. You use a looping app.
Yeah.
I love doing that. And your cover of Africa by Toto is one of my favorites.
Thank you.
I love it.
I think that might be our favorite song to play. So I've got the guys that are in that video. So Neil and I are No More Kings in the sense that we're a studio band, basically. We get together and we record stuff, but when we play live, we have to get a full band to play out, to fill out all those instruments. So the guys in that video, are some of the guys that I play with out in LA whenever I play shows. And I love playing with those guys, man. They're amazing at their instrument, but they're super cool guys to hang out with, and they actually really like the music. I've played with other hired guns before when I was on tour that it was just a paycheck for them. They really didn't enjoy the music. I don't think they really cared about the songs one way or another. And that's fine. I don't expect everybody to like the stuff, but I definitely see the difference now with a band that actually enjoys playing my music.
Yep, that makes all the difference.
Yeah, and so those guys, I really want to record that cover of Africa properly. Actually, I am thinking about doing a whole cover album, probably not as No More Kings, but with those guys, just as a solo album of just covers.
That would be awesome.
Right on.
I love a good cover with, as you said, something completely different than the original, and half the time I find a lot of covers are better than the original.
Yeah, when that happens, that always blows me away. When I can hear someone. There's a band called Pomplamoose. Have you heard of those guys?
I don't think so.
They're really cool. It's these two, this boyfriend and girlfriend, this duo, Jack Conti and Natalie Dawn. They, I think they're based out of Nashville. I'm not exactly sure, but they came on the scene by doing a really crazy cover of Beyonce's "All the Single Ladies."
Oh wow!
And it was really jazzy and really fun, crazy 4-part kind of jazz harmonies. And their thing was they did video songs, so they would make the song. They wouldn't put the song together in Pro Tools and then make a video of the song. The song was what you saw being played. So whatever you saw on video, that's really what the audio was. So he'd film himself hitting the kick drum, and he'd loop that, and then, you know what I mean? Similar to kind of what I was doing with the loop stuff. I think a lot of stuff that they do video-wise inspires me to do some really fun stuff.
Yeah, the loop stuff is so cool, and I forgot. I have one app that I think it's different than the one you use.
The one I use is Loopy. I actually became friends with the guy that developed that. He's super, super cool. His name is Michael Tyson, but he's not a boxer. yeah, that app is unbelievable, and he's so dedicated to like really making it musician friendly and as useful as possible. He's added like the ability to reverse the loops. You can drag a loop on another to combine them, so you can free up more of your loop pods.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. I've only ever used it live a couple times, but I really like using it for sketching or for making those cover videos.
Yeah. So what do you see in your future with like No More Kings or your art and that kind of stuff? Like, is there how do you want to expand? If you, I guess.
That's a really good question. There's a lot of things that my problem that I've always had is I always bite off more than I can chew. I always try to tackle too many projects. So I have like a hard drive full of ideas of things that I want to do that I'll probably never get to. So I'm really trying to focus on getting that down to like the top 3 things that I want to work on at the moment. And so for a while with No More Kings, that was, getting these singles done, getting enough singles that we could put out another album, which we're doing. We're putting out our 3rd album, which is basically just a collection of those 10 singles that we put out. But it's got 2 songs that I don't think anyone's heard yet because they're not out. The one slow song that I thought you might have been thinking of, but I guess not. It's called Trace's Song. It's about the last guy to walk on the moon who wrote his daughter's initials in the moon. And it's a really sweet, like about Schroeder style, love, kind of a father-daughter love song in that sense. Then there's the new James Bond, which is like a super funky, like critical hit style song about Roger Moore taking on the role of James Bond back in '73 with the one that died.
Yeah.
So those are written for. We were doing 1973 as an EP, but then we realized, I don't know, we got enough stuff to put out a full album. Let's just put out a full album. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen after that in terms of we're done doing a single a month. We tried that and we realized it was a good experiment for us creatively. It was a good experiment to get fan engagement back up because we had gone off the radar for so long.
Yeah.
But it's really expensive. It's expensive to make music. It's expensive for me to fly to Kentucky to record with Neil.
Oh, yeah.
To take time out of the schedule, and we were not selling what I hoped to sell for those. So we never really made that investment back, which makes it hard. I mean, we're always going to make music because we love to make music together. I'm doing a lot of stuff on my own now musically just because, if I don't have to fly there, or if he doesn't have to disrupt his schedule, he's got 4 kids now, he's like, why? He's like, yeah. He's, it's great when we get together, but it's also hard.
Yeah.
To just both our schedules. So, but I don't want No More Kings to be my only musical outlet because then I end up getting frustrated that I'm not able to do that faster,
Yep.
So I've been working on a lot of electronic music. Like I said, I want to do a solo cover album. Like there's stuff I want to do on my own, and I'm just hoping people still like it. It's always weird when somebody tries, what I'm excited about these days is, back in the 80s and 90s, when someone said they're doing a solo album, everybody cried because it meant they were leaving the band. And that's not true anymore. Like, there are tons of artists, Tom York, it's all kinds of people that make a solo album while they're working on an album with their band. Like, it's not a either-or thing, it's just something else they want to do. So for me, No More Kings isn't really going to come up with an electro-pop album, probably. So I want to do that, so I have to do that on my own, you know what I mean? And similarly, I don't think Neil would go for a cover album. It's just not, it doesn't really make sense for No More Kings to do a full cover album, but I want to do that, so that's something I'll do on my own. And then when Neil and I get together, we'll continue to do No More Kings stuff. So from a musical standpoint, that's what we're planning on doing. I still have, I really want to get into making better games for the iPad. I had a project called based on the song Critical Hit. It was like an old school Zelda style RPG that I was working with a company making, and it fell apart for whatever reason. Just lost money, but I worked on it for like a year and a half, and I have so many sketches and drawings and paintings and animation from it that I don't know if I can use any of that, but it's just, every time I look back at that folder, I'm like sad, kind of, that it failed, but also like, I really want to make that. So that's something in the near future I really want to start doing.
That stuff's tough, because I got together with a big, a group of my friends, and we were trying to make we went through a million different ideas to make games and stuff, but just with like our schedules and, like we were going to remake a Tamagotchi app.
Oh, wow.
Who didn't love Tamagotchis? But
that would be awesome.
Yeah, it took us too long, and then somebody already came out with the Tamagotchi app, that was like backed by Bandai, so it was just like it was like hit after hit, and then we kind of just fizzled out. So
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from.
The lessons I learned from trying to do the Critical Hit project, when the team got too big, the ideas got too big, the budget got too big,
Yeah.
people started expecting more. If you can keep, like, that's what I like about your idea being that small. Like, it's literally just a Tomodachi Shack. That's pretty attainable. You know, that's not too big of an idea. So, giving yourself the smallest proof of concept, or like what we call the MVP, the minimum viable product. You know, the smallest thing that you could see existing on the App Store. And yeah, just work backwards from that. Like, what will it take to make that thing? And even give yourself, like, do a 48-hour, game jam where you just you stay up all night, get whacked out on Code Red and Oreos, and just you just make like a prototype of the game. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's fun. Like, if you can get one or two other people on board and really compress the timeline so that it doesn't drag out and you don't have a chance for people to fizzle.
Yeah.
Really get something small and kind of work on that, like the college overnight study session kind of mentality. Like, let's cram and get this project done.
Yeah.
And then build on that. Build on the. This is one of the things. This is sort of a rant, but I'm terrible at similarly. Like, I have all these ideas. I have full list of ideas, and I start working on them, and something gets in the way. Some kind of roadblock I hit, and I jump to another one that seems a little more exciting. And then I hit a roadblock on that one, or I try to involve somebody, and it fizzles out. Nobody's going to care as much as I am about that thing. So for whatever reason, I just got really sick of falling off the train of productivity, and I would get really down on myself, and I realized instead of doing that, what I'd rather do is get excited about the chance to re-engage with that project,
Yeah.
and say, okay, that's fine, that thing got in the way, I fell off, I'll sweep that under the rug, and let's start clean on this thing, or celebrate the stuff I did do. Well, that's what I was getting with that. So, if you have a small game jam vibe, you get your couple people together and you make something playable. It's not perfect, it's not polished, but it's playable within a weekend, Then a month down the road, rest, get back to your work. A month down the road, do it again for Rev 2. Look at that piece and say, what can we add? And, after a couple revs of that, you're going to have, something that's really exciting. But the fun part about that is you're working on momentum, working on small victories, rather than this sense of defeat and this sense of derailing, because that stuff's inevitable.
Yeah, that's, I forget which psychologist said it, but, basically take a big task and break it down to smaller, simpler tasks.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard this old joke of, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our projects end up being elephants, and it's really overwhelming. You can definitely get overwhelmed with obstacles that get in the way of getting that thing done. But yeah, if you break it down into the smallest tasks, like, just make a list of what needs to happen next before I can do the next piece, and yeah, work on that one.
Yeah, that's, I'm the same way. There's so much I want to do in life, and, that's the whole purpose behind the blog is that I started, and I fell off the wagon on the blog because I just, once again, too busy, but, this video reinvigorated me, and
Nice.
so, get back on that, but, it was taking the new year and just accomplishing a few goals that I just want to do, and slowly but surely chiseling away at each little project.
Yep.
And, just finding those ways of making it. I wanted to write a book. Well, I'm writing a book. And I started I wrote as I thought of it, and it was just messy. So I actually went out and bought this book. It's like write a book in 30 days, and it actually kind of helps you just organize. It's day by day. You just chisel away at like one aspect of the book, and it's been very helpful. So
that's awesome. Yeah, keeping it like almost like a diet, like the way that you would, or an exercise regimen. Like, just staying with it, not getting down on yourself for how much you accomplished that day, but just doing something. Doing something towards it. You can check a little box that says, yes, I worked on the book today. There's a thing in every November, NaNoWriMo. Do you know about that? National Novel Writers Month. I tried to do it this past November, and I was so far behind. It graphs. It shows you how many words per day you're supposed to get in order to reach your goal.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was like a third, of what I needed to have, and I just gave up, which is sad because I wish I didn't do that. But anyway, I hadn't given up. That daily writing, forcing yourself to do 3 pages a day, no matter what, even if they're crap. Because that's the thing, you do the 3 pages a day, and then at the end of it, that's your first draft.
Exactly.
I mean, the thing people like you and I probably have to fight is that desire to make our first draft the final draft. And it should never be that way. First draft has to be a first draft. Then you can go back into that thing and start chopping and fixing, and that's when the real work happens.
Yeah, that's exactly me. I wanted to be perfect the first time, and
can't.
It's taken me years to just kind of like realize that it's going to be crap the first time.
Yeah, it should be. That's the fun. It should be crap.
Yeah.
You should try to write the crappiest novel you can. Honestly.
Oh, don't worry. It's pretty terrible.
No, but seriously, like, once I realized that you cannot have a second draft until you get through that first draft, that sort of changed the way that I work. I've always been kind of a sloppy guy, like, artistically. I've never been really good at refining stuff. I remember, even friends would notice that about me. They'd be like, man, your output, you put out a lot of stuff, but it's all, like, kind of this level, you don't really... And I took that as an insult at the time, but then I realized, that's actually a strength of mine,
Yep.
The things that really are awesome, I can go back in and take another pass, or even involve somebody else that's better at that stuff than me. If I'm doing an animation and I realize, my background sucks, I'll get a background artist who goes better than I will, and I'll concentrate on the character animation if that's what I want to do,
Yep.
But I don't want to change that sort of play. It's got to be about playing. It's got to be about sitting on the floor with a pile of Legos and just making something. If it's all work and no play, then you've got to find a way to split it. So anyway, my point is, let it be crap, let it be fast and furious, shoot from the hip, just be nuts to get that first draft out, and then work. Then it's time to sit down and trim and prune. We're gardeners, basically, as creative people. We plant seeds, we water them, let them grow, and then we prune. And we let the stronger ideas grow. We check back on it, we arrange things. But it takes time. It takes time, and it has to kind of do a little bit of its own growing without us.
Yeah, that's so true. Like Bruce Lee said, just chip away at the unnecessary things.
Yeah.
All his quotes are like my life mottos. Like,
nice. Yeah, he was a really cool guy, man. He was one of those rare, like, philosopher action heroes,
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings me back to like what you do. It's almost, you're kind of like Bruce Lee. You're a master of all these things. And I read this book called Master of Life that was written about Bruce Lee, and it's all about how he's a philosopher, he was an artist, he was a martial artist, he, filmmaker, director, all this stuff, and
writer.
Right, yep. And he did what he loved and he mastered it, and I think that's what we all try to strive towards, is being able to do what we love and being good at it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But as you said, the first step is being crap at it,
Yes, exactly. I forget who said that, but it's like, be crap, and then the next time be a little less crap, and the next time be a little less crap, and then eventually you're like, wow, when I taught myself guitar, and I never expected to be a guitar player. I still had no desire to be a guitar player. But I realized I kept writing the same song over and over again because I had no chord vocabulary, you know what I mean? And so I said, I have to learn guitar so I can at least force myself to write different songs than what I've been writing, so I'm not trapping myself in the same melodies. And I was so bad at first, like really bad. Like my hands hurt, I couldn't do it for more than like 10 minutes at a time. I started getting these little lines in my fingers, like I felt like, oh god, I'm just not cut out for this. And then like after 2 weeks of doing that, I didn't get those lines anymore, and I could do it longer. And then I was switching chords, and I was like, oh, I'm actually getting, So it's like, be crap, embrace the crap, and then be less crap.
Yeah. It's important also to like kind of look back at where you started and realize that how far you've come.
Yes, I think that was what I was... That's exactly right, man. I think if you don't give yourself a chance to celebrate those victories, and this is a problem I have, I'm generally a very optimistic person, but when it comes to lately, I don't know what it is, I've been sort of, again, I get down on myself for my lack of productivity.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to stop doing that. I'm trying to, exactly what you said, I'm trying to celebrate the things that I did right instead of focusing on the things I did wrong or didn't get to. And similar to what you're saying, if you have goals that you're setting, if you have these projects that you want to do this year, don't make that mistake that I make of writing down 30 of them and expecting to get 30 things done. Like, pick the top 3, and then get those 3 done, and then pick a 4th if you've got extra time. You know what I mean? Like, you can always add to that list, but there's something really encouraging and exciting about celebrating those victories and working on momentum, you know?
Yeah. That's part of my problem too, is like, you know, as I said, there's all these things I want to accomplish this year, and I'm trying to accomplish them all at the same time, and then I realized I need to just tackle them one at a time and just knock them down.
Yep, you're absolutely right. I think for people that we have interest in a lot of different areas, I think there's this idea that we don't want to segment and separate, but that's going to happen naturally. Like, while you're working on the second thing, the first thing is still percolating, it's still cooking in your brain, so you're never really going to fully separate, but if you try to tackle them all at once, then they're all going to suffer. You know, you're never really going to be able to focus on anything and get anything worthwhile done. So yeah, I'm glad you're you know, running into these things now, certainly earlier than I did.
Yeah, you know, one last thing, just kind of like summation on, like, what advice would you give to somebody for, like, following their dreams or just pursuing what they love?
Wow, man. No, that's a great question. That's a big one. I could probably talk for a couple hours on that kind of advice. But I mean, it's similar to what we were just saying. The big thing is, or rather than advice, I'll give a cautionary tale. So my problem, when things started going well for No More Kings, I got a little bit caught up in this idea that, holy crap, I could become famous doing this, you know? And then I started getting really sad when that wasn't working. And at the beginning of this call, you said something that I have to remind myself all the time. You said that I'm doing what I love for a living. And you're absolutely right. And I forget that all the time because I have these big ambitions that I think I want to get to. And I will eventually. But what I have to remember is, holy crap, man, I'm doing it. Like, I'm being creative for a living. People are paying me to be creative, you know? Like, holy crap, it's nothing better than that. So my advice would be, ignore all that other bullshit about, you know, fame and success and fortune and whatever these other ideas are about what that means, and really remember that if you get to do what you love doing in any capacity, even if it is the thing you do when you come home from your job, you know, if you can make space for that, and then eventually it's the thing you do and you have to get a part-time job because this other thing that you're doing is taking so much time, and then eventually you have to quit your job, you have to take a leap of faith because, you know, the comic you're working on is getting some traction, or the album you're writing is, you know what I mean, whatever that project is. Don't, you know, you have to create in the middle of life, so don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Don't wait until the perfect storm arises for you to do that. Do it anyway, but then recognize when that fish is growing bigger than the bowl, you know, and then allow that to happen. And then pretty soon, yeah, you look back and you go, oh my God, I'm doing this. I'm doing this thing, and I'm making a living. You know, I'm putting food on my plate. I'm paying my rent for the thing that I love doing.
Yeah, that's basically what we all aim for.
It is, man. I think it is.
Yeah, I think we covered quite a bit.
Awesome.
It was great. Thank you so much.